All right, the other major story we're tracking for you tonight. More than 337 people have now been hurt in clashes after reports of Spanish police using forces as voters in Catalonia defied Madrid. Now, there have been reports of rubber bullets being fired by police there in Spain. Meanwhile, Spain's deputy prime minister, in fact, has said that police are protecting democracy in Catalonia and that the police forces used in the voting process is proportionate. And also saying that Spanish laws have to be respected. Listen in.
Ellos han cumplido las órdenes de la justicia, han actuado con profesionalidad y de modo proporcional y proporcionado. El objeto de sus actuaciones nunca han sido las personas, sino el material electoral. Han buscado siempre proteger los derechos y las libertades.
Spain has banned the Catalan referendum, terming it illegal and unconstitutional. Police there have entered polling stations, breaking glass doors and seizing the ballot boxes. Here's a listen to what the president there had to say.
Ha perdido aún mucho más de lo que ya había perdido hasta ahora. Y los ciudadanos de Cataluña hoy hemos ganado mucho más de lo que ya habíamos conquistado hasta ahora. Muchas gracias y buenos días.
Spain's police have now sealed more than 1,300 polling stations in order to stop the referendum. Spain's government has also visited many of the schools, in fact more than 2,300 schools in Catalonia, which have been designated as polling stations. Now, meanwhile, Kurds have shown their support to the Catalans to express solidarity between two stateless people, Kurds and the Catalans. In fact, the People's Democratic Party of Turkey also announcing that it is fully backing for the independence for Catalonia, a region in northeastern Spain. Earlier, thousands of people, in fact, demonstrated in Barcelona and Madrid by waving the Spanish flag in favor of Spanish unity against a referendum on independence.
De acuerdo con lo que están haciendo los catalanes. No tienen derecho hasta haciendo lo que están haciendo. Somos todos españoles y Cataluña es español y ya está.
All right, to get perspective on the story, we're now joined by Jose Paniagua, the South Asia Bureau Chief from EFE, joining us live from New Delhi. Jose, thank you for joining us. Certainly dramatic visuals there, dramatic pictures emerging from the referendum vote there. I mean, how surprised are you by what is happening in Spain? On one hand, you see people trying to call for unity. On the other hand, the people of Catalonia requesting for their own independent land.
Well, yes, definitely is not the best day for Spain today. Not for Catalonia. Unfortunately, we see a situation that probably some politicians have been feeling for quite a while. This call was made some weeks ago. As you know, in my opinion, there are two different things at stake here. On one hand is the separatist issue, which is defended by a part of the Catalonian people. And on the other hand is the referendum we are seeing today. The referendum we are seeing today was approved the 6th of September, some weeks ago. And that referendum was called illegal. It was challenged by the central government in front of the Constitutional Court. It was declared illegal by the Constitutional Court. And this is a matter of legality. When the maximum tribunal in a country, like in this case for these sort of matters, states that the referendum that has been called by the Catalan government doesn't have the requirements, the law plans for these sort of situations. There is a matter of legality at stake. Now, for the last weeks, we've been having a position to carry on with this process, and another position by the government in Madrid to challenge this position against the government of Catalonia, calling to the courts and using the police in this situation to prevent this referendum to happen. Well, it's definitely it doesn't look to be the best way to address a problem of separatism of any other issue in democracy.
Let me also ask you there, Jose, when it comes to this, I mean, why this push for now? I mean, obviously it's been something that's been brewing for a while. We understand that region there relatively doing independently well on its own, more of a tourist spot. Give us a sense of that area, perhaps for our international audience, people who may not understand the socio-economic struggles there. Is this a question of perhaps those people feel we are paying taxes and we want that money to be in our area as opposed to going it to the other parts of Spain where perhaps they're not doing as well?
Well, the nationalism issue is not an issue. It's not a recent issue. It happened before the Civil War in the 30s. In terms of, it existed before. The Catalans have the genuine feeling to have a different. They feel Catalans as the Galicians feels the way, and the Basques and the Castilians and the Andalusians. We all have different things. This is nothing new. But yes, definitely in the last years we have. A narrative by some parties in Catalonia thinking that, they pay too much and probably they don't get as much as they think they deserve to. There are many things to see this issue. You think about these days, obviously we have many figures coming out, and there are some figures that can make some sense here.
Right.
The GDP, Catalonia basically it represents 19% of the GDP of Spain. And it also gives 19% of the revenues, and the population is some 16% of the population. If you look at those figures, they look like quite balanced. Now, at the same time, Catalonia is a very rich part of Spain, and obviously, as in this country and in every country, those who have more pay more taxes. This is a matter of progressivity in any society, in any fiscal system. Now, whether that amount of money has to go or not is something that can be discussed politically, and it is discussed politically. It is discussed in the case of the Basque Country, it is discussed in the case of Catalonia and in Galicia, and obviously you have legal democratic ways to address those issues. Now, is that the point that makes us to get to this point today? I don't know. There are more things at stake here, and I probably none of them are just objective reasons to say, well, it is genuinely obvious that you have to be a different country as part of the spoken by the Catalans.
Right.
And obviously there are many political factors in here.
All right, Jose, we're going to have you hold on for just a second. Let me also bring in our other guest for discussion. We have Alejandro Quiroga, a Spanish professor from Newcastle University in London, also joining us. 337, those numbers have steadily grown. In fact, we've been closely monitoring some of the tweets coming from the Catalan government saying that this all needs to be taken up by the Interior Ministry and that the blame really falls on the person responsible is Mariano Rajoy. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, certainly the Spanish government, it's in control of the police forces, of the civil guard, and ultimately it's behind the actions. The police is acting under the government's orders, and it seems that such a high level of people injured, it's an absolute disaster for the Spanish government in terms of the political goals, because this is going to break a lot of bridges with the Catalans, of course.